Hello everyone, welcome back to Comment Made Easy, and I hope you all are doing very well. Before we begin, let me remind my dear students that the contents of this channel are only to supplement your knowledge, not to replace the regular online and offline classes in your institution. So please attend your classes and do not miss them. Also, if you like our contents, please subscribe to our YouTube channel, like the videos, and share these videos with your friends, with your batchmates, with your juniors. Also, if you are a teacher, then with your students. Please follow our Facebook page, and the link will be given in the description. In biostatistics, we often come across a word or terminology that is parameter. In today's video, we shall learn what a parameter is. A parameter is a useful component of statistical analysis. So whenever we are dealing with different data or conducting some kind of statistical tests, we may have to consider the parameter of the population. It refers to the characteristics that are used to define a given population. So it tells us about the particular characteristics of a population. It can be the height of the population, it can be the age of the population, the religion, the morbidity, the different death rates, etc. So it tells about something about the population, and also it is used to describe a specific characteristics of the entire population. So whenever you are talking about parameter, we are also talking about the whole population, not only a part of the population. So all the people in the population will be considered while we are talking about parameter. Previously, we have uploaded multiple videos on sampling, different sampling methods, etc. We already know what a population and a sample is. Now, population comprises all the people. So, in research, a population is the entire group of people that we are interested in studying. So, if we want to conduct any research on the population, we are supposed to approach each and every person in that population, which may not always be very feasible. So what we do is we take a small representative part of that whole population and we call it a sample. We conduct our study on the sample, and whatever result we get, we can generalize that result to the whole population. So this is the concept of a population and a sample. The sample is a group of elements that we actually collect data from. So as I mentioned, we conduct our study. That means we meet them, we interview them, or do all the necessary investigations, physical examinations, whatever is needed given the study, and we do it on the sample itself, not on the population, because it is a huge number of people living there in the population, and it is not always possible to interact with all of them. So this is population and sample. Here is an example of population and sample. Suppose my research question is, what is the prevalence of hypertension among nursing students of West Bengal? So whatever number of nursing students we have in a particular state of a particular country, I want to know what is the prevalence of hypertension among them. So ideally what I need to do is, I need to meet each and every nursing student of this state, and I am supposed to take their blood pressure individually. And if I am able to accomplish that, I can find out how many of them are hypertensive. That is, now it is quite difficult because there are such a huge number of nursing students in a state, and also it may not be feasible, or it may be quite difficult for one researcher to conduct the whole thing. Also, there is a question of time frame. So in a given time period, we may not be able to complete the research because this may take a lot of time. It will also need a lot of resources, like in the form of manpower, in the form of materials, etc. So that means it is very, very difficult, if not impossible, to conduct a research on the population. So what we are doing, we are taking a sample. So we are selecting maybe one or two nursing schools or nursing colleges by some kind of probability sampling, and from that nursing colleges also or nursing schools, we can randomly select a certain number of nursing students. Then we can conduct our study, that is measuring the blood pressure and trying to find out the prevalence of hypertension among these selected nursing students who are basically our samples. And from that we can find out the prevalence of hypertension in this sample, which we can generalize to the whole population. So whatever is the study result, we can say this is more or less the prevalence of hypertension among all the nursing students in this particular state. So this is population, all the nursing students of the state, and this is the sample, which is basically the representative part of the population on which we are conducting our study. How many nursing students should be considered as sample, that is decided by the sampling method, as well as more importantly the sample size calculation. For different kind of research we may have to follow different sample size formula. Now sample size calculation has not been discussed yet. In future we shall definitely make videos on sample size calculation. So I hope by now we are very much clear about the concepts of population and sample. Now coming back to the parameter, and there is also another term, statistics. Both of them summarize certain measurable characteristics of the population or sample. So whenever we are talking about parameter, we are talking about certain measurable characteristics. So some characteristics that can be measured in a given population, so considering all the people in the population. Whereas the same thing for a sample is known statistics. So statistics are also certain measurable characteristics, but this is for the sample. We try to remember this thing with the mnemonic P for P, S for S. P for P, that means a parameter in population, and S for S is statistics in sample. So try to remember like this. That means in the previous example, if you are talking about hypertension, so we are talking about the blood pressure as the variable. If we are considering the blood pressure of all the nursing students in the states, that will be the population parameter, because we are considering all the people in the population. Whereas since we are measuring the blood pressure in the sample, that will be our sample statistics. So the same thing, the characteristics is the blood pressure, but in case of population it is known as the parameter. In case of sample it is called the statistics. Okay. What kind of numbers are parameters or also statistics, depending on whether we are considering the population or the sample? For categorical variables like gender or religion, that means those variables which have responses one or another, that means they are mutually exclusive. So gender, for example, a person will be either male or female, or maybe TG. A person cannot be both, right? Similarly, religion, a person can be either Hindu or Muslim or Christian, or the person may not even follow any religion, but at a particular time he cannot be either male or female, or either Hindu or Muslim, like that. So that means they are mutually exclusive. So these kind of categorical variables, we can express them with frequencies or absolute numbers, as well as proportions or percentages. So in case of sample, that is statistics, and population parameters, for categorical variables we have different percentages and proportions. What about numerical variables? Something that can be measured. For example, height of a person, blood sugar of a person. In that case, we can measure the mean or even median, or the median value, as well as standard deviation can be measured whenever we are considering the mean value. And these are the more commonly used parameters or statistics. Some examples are given here. On the left hand side, we have mentioned all the population parameters. On the right hand side, we have mentioned the corresponding sample statistics. For example, the first one is proportion of all Indian that support death penalty. So how many Indian actually support death penalty as punishment? So if you are considering all the people from India, that means all Indians, that will be my population. So this is a population parameter, the proportion. Whereas the thing, the same thing, the proportion, but here we have randomly selected 2000 Indians, and we have asked them whether they support death penalty or not. So what proportion of these 2000 randomly selected Indians support death penalty? Since we have taken a particular sample from the whole population of India, so this is a sample statistics. So as you can see, proportion can either be parameter or statistics depending on whether we are considering the whole population or a part of the population. Similarly, median income of all farmers in the West Bengal or median income of 1000 selected farmers in the West Bengal. So all farmers means it is a population and 1000 selected farmer means this is a sample. Next one is standard deviation of blood sugars of all adults in Bankura district. So in a particular state we have selected a particular district. So all the adults present or living in the particular district, so that means it is a population for the whole district, and their standard deviation of blood sugar can be measured. If we measure the same thing but in a particular part of the population, say all adults in one block of that particular district, that becomes a sample and that will be my statistics. Mean screen time of all high school students in India, or since we are considering all high school students in a particular country, then means it becomes a population. Whereas if we select a particular state from that a particular district or city, and from that city we selected a couple of maybe 2 or 3 high schools, and from that we select few students, so that becomes a sample, and the mean screen time of these sample students will be my sample statistics. So this is basically the difference between the population parameter and sample statistics. Next one, certain notations. For example, different symbols can be used for denoting parameters or statistics, and from that symbols themselves we can have some idea whether we are talking about the whole population or the sample. Generally, Greek letters or capital letters are used to refer the population parameters, whereas Latin letters or lower cases are used to refer the sample statistics. Here I have given certain examples. For example, if you are talking about proportion, capital P letter is used for population parameter, as population parameter, and P hat, that is the sample statistics. Similarly, Greek letter mu denotes the mean of the population, or X bar denotes the mean of the sample. Now this bar sign here or this hat sign here should be exactly on this letters, but since I made this on Microsoft PowerPoint, this did not work. But whenever you are writing the this notations, please make sure you put the signs exactly above the words or the letters, not words, sorry, letters. What about standard deviation? We use Greek letter sigma for population standard deviation, whereas the letter S or small letter s can be used as sample standard deviation. Variance is basically the square of the standard deviation. So sigma square is population variance and S square is the sample variance. So this is the basic difference between a population parameter and a sample statistics. They more or less express the same things, but whenever we are considering the whole population, that becomes a parameter. Whenever we are considering the sample, that is the statistics, and sometimes they are denoted with different notations. More commonly used, the mu, that is the population mean, and the X bar, that is the sample mean, and also the sigma, which is the population standard deviation, and S, that is the sample standard deviation. These four are more commonly used. So if you come across a mu or X bar, don't get confused. You should by now know what they mean or what they represent. With this we conclude today's session. I hope now you have some idea about what a population is, what a sample is, as well as what population parameter is and what sample statistics is, and what are the different examples and how they are denoted with different notations. If you like the video, please subscribe to our channel and share this video with your batchmates, juniors and friends from other colleges. We also have our Facebook page that you can follow. The link is given in the description. Take care, and we shall see you in our next video.